Cool. Hello and welcome back to another episode of From the Field. You have my host. God, I'm not very good at this, Sam. I take 2 weeks off and then I instantly can't even do an intro. I'm your host, Casey, or I'm a solution architect based in Wellington, New Zealand. And with me, I have the lovely Miriam, who will introduce herself very shortly. I think last week we did a show with Amazon Security Leak that was very well received. So thank you everyone for turning up to that and supporting us going forward. Sweet. Today we are talking about a Cloud WAN. If you're like me and have very little network, well, not very, I won't say little, but I definitely don't have much experience dealing with the global concept of a WAN with offices in multiple geographies and all of that. So we're going to be covering off all of that. And Miriam, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us why the Cloud WAN, everything to do with the global infrastructure is amazing.
Cool. Thanks, Casey. Hey, everyone. My name is Maya Murray. I'm a solutions architect. Based in Auckland, New Zealand, and it's a year that I've been with AWS. Before that, I was a network engineer, and as part of that, working with different technologies and different providers, I always hoping to find a dashboard that can give me a single view of the whole infrastructure, and also be able to manage all in the same dashboard. When I heard about Cloud WAN, I got really excited, and I really enjoyed actually running a few workshops and explore different things with customers, which are well received. So I want to share some of that information with you regarding Cloud WAN. The name of the presentation, Segmentation and Security Inspection for Global Networks with AWS Cloud WAN, which Casey found it really long. So we just decided on a shorter version, which is all about Cloud WAN. Before
Sweet,
that,
just throw me under the bus.
it's more come in my presentation. Wait. Okay,
Mm.
cool. Before that, going deep dive into Cloud WAN, I will talk about what is WAN. So WAN, or Wide Area Network, refers to a networking infrastructure that connects your branch offices and data centers. And in the olden days, it was just using the traditional technology, MPLS and VPN. And basically, the applications are sitting in data center, and users in branches and offices would connect to the data centers via WAN. And what it was called, why it was called WAN, because, or wide area network, because it just spans beyond one building or a campus. You can connect multiple different locations and different geographic areas.
And
It
if
was,
just to jump
yeah.
in, Miriam, if you have any questions around networking in general, or just want to go more in depth into any particular concept, because like me, there's probably a few interesting points here that you haven't seen before. Like for me, I've never seen MPLS before. So if you have any questions or want further details, just like reach out and chat, and we're more than happy to you know go on that tangent with you.
Cool. Cool. WAN was a revolution and the time that it was introduced. However, it's got its own downfalls or disadvantages. The first thing, it was very expensive. It was not easy to scale. It would take months for provisioning or adding new links, and also you have to be locked into long-term commitments. And the next was modern new modern WAN, which is introduction of SD-WAN and client VPN for individual secure connections of individuals to their infrastructures and applications, and also introduction of cloud. So currently we have multiple different companies. They are they running their workloads fully in the cloud, or they're using hybrid connectivity. Some applications running in the branch in their data centers, and some running in the cloud. So connecting from the data centers to the cloud, you can use direct connect, they can use VPN, and they can use SD-WAN, their existing SD-WAN connections. And within the cloud, if they have workload in multiple different regions, they can use the VPC peering, or you can use transit gateway peering. It's way faster and is way secure. However, we still have different technologies to manage, right? Now we're going to start our conversation on Cloud WAN. Cloud WAN started or introduced in 2021 reInvent. So what is Cloud WAN? Cloud WAN is a managed service for creating a global network. It brings security because it introduces segmentation. You can put your sensitive workload in different segments and manage the routing between the segments. Also, you have a view of your entire network in a single dashboard, which I was really excited about. And you will be leveraging, Cloud WAN will be leveraging AWS Global Network. So what can connect to Cloud WAN? First, within AWS VPCs, your VPCs in different regions, as you can see, you in the picture, you can just connect all your VPCs to Cloud WAN. The second one is your hybrid connectivity. You can connect your data centers via SD-WAN, or your branches via VPN, and or your data center and branches via direct connect and a transit gateway. And to bring everything together, You can connect, as you can see in the picture, bring everything together, VPCs and SD-WAN, VPN, and transit gateway connections to SD-WAN.
So does it act like a global middleware?
Yes, yes, exactly. Okay, segmentation is really exciting. And whenever a network engineer wants to talk about networking in the cloud, right, they have this traditional or legacy, not a legacy, but just olden way that we used to do things, and they want to see how it's going to translate to the cloud terminology or concepts. So segmentation, first let's start by talking about segmentation. Segmentation is actually segments are dedicated routing domains. And it means that by default, attachments to each segment only communicate with the other attachment in the same segment. So you are isolating that segment from the rest of the network. And if you want any additional communication between the segments, you need to add routing policy. It's exactly the same as what we have called VRF in traditional networking, or a layer 3 VPN over MPLS. So there are a few ways that you can connect your attachments. And when I say attachments, it means your VRFs or your SD-WAN VPN transit gateway to each segment. Can be either dynamic or can be static. And I will go through it as we go through the presentation. Any questions? Can we carry on? Cool.
Keep going.
Yeah,
I'll let you know if there's anyone that wants some clarification or anything like that. And I'll be
cool.
asking questions as I'm also trying to get my head around it because we're learning together.
Cool, not a problem. So one of the very important concepts of Cloud WAN is called, oh, sorry, I didn't move it here. So it's called policy, core network policy. So what is core network policy? It's basically its configuration for your Cloud WAN. It defines parts like network configurations, segments, routing, routing between segments, routing policies, and also mapping attachment to the segments that I explained can be dynamic or static. So all these configuration is going to be defined in one document, one policy document for your global network. I have here a sample of the policy. I had to cut some pieces to fit into this page. Is color coded which segment or which part related to which configuration. And I will explain this as we go um, deeper into different concepts of Cloud WAN. Okay, now we're going to compare transit gateway with Cloud WAN. Both of them, both transit gateway and Cloud WAN, allow centralized connectivity between VPCs and on-premises locations. Transit gateway is a regional construct and is managed by customer. What does it mean? It means that if you want to add any routes, if you want to attach any routes, if you want to create a VPC, transit gateway peering, you manage it yourself. And also it registered to global network. There is a concept called global network that is applicable for transit gateway and also Cloud WAN. And we will see it when we go to the global network, that you can have a view of all your transit gateways on the side with view on all your Cloud WAN, your global Cloud WAN. You can use existing automation because Transit Gateway can integrate with other services like CloudFormation or Lambda. Then you can just it allows you to automate tasks such as provisioning VPCs, configure routing policies, and so on. And
So does
Transit.
So does Cloud WAN enable you to automate the provisioning of transit gateways within its
No,
like
no. This
segmentation?
is
Okay.
now this is only for transit gateway. What I'm talking about now is only transit gateway, right? So transit gateway, you need to manage the automations. But when we go to Cloud WAN, it manages the automation for you. It's got a built-in automation. Does it make sense?
Kind of.
Okay, let me explain. Let me explain Cloud WAN, then you will see. Transit gateway can connect to direct connect via transit WIF directly. However, now moving to Cloud WAN, it cannot connect as for today, right? It might change in a few days as we have new features and new capabilities every day. Cloud WAN cannot directly connect to direct connect. It needs a transit gateway peering. Cloud WAN supports 3 types of attachment: VPN, SD-WAN, and VPN, SD-WAN, and transit gateway. And it has got built-in automation and built-in, as I mentioned, built-in procedures and processes that you can define attachments for each segment. We will see it as we go through the presentation. These are capabilities in case you want to take a screenshot. We talked about it. All of them has been covered. Like key concepts. Cloud WAN has got multiple different key concepts and it's a bit confusing. So I tried to have a screenshot of each concept after explaining that. It just hopefully makes a bit more sense. The first one is global network. Global network is a first step, but when you create your Cloud WAN, is a high-level container and can include transit gateway and Cloud WAN. So it's not only for Cloud WAN, it can also include transit gateway. And you can see it on a network manager. This screenshot is from and it's an older version of the dashboard. However, still a little relevant. You can create multiple different global networks as is, and it's under network manager. Cool. The second concept is core network. So core network is part of a global network. As you can see, the outer part is global network, the inner part is core network, and includes regional connection points and attachments. It's a very nice dashboard. As you can see, I had 2 regions. It says edge location. Is not the edge location we know. It's a core edge location. The concept relates to Cloud WAN. I had 3 segments: pod, non-prod, and shared services. And I didn't have any transit gateway. And as you can see on the top, you're going to see all these different topologies that you can view, graphs and topologies that you can view. As part of the core network, we have core network edge under the hood. So all the attachments in reality going to attach to core network edge in each region. So VPN, SD-WAN, and transit gateway. It's got a very similar concept as transit gateway. As you can see, at the bottom of the screen, they all connected to each other via BGP. So it's a dynamic routing to advertise routes between the regions. We go back to core network policy. So core network policy is a single file, single document. And I emphasize on this because you can't create multiple different policies. You can edit the same policy and it's going to create a new version of this a policy, and you apply it then. It's got multiple different parts. You don't need to populate all of it at once. You can populate it as you go. As your network expands or changes, then you can change the parameters. You also manage your routing policies as part of the core network policy. Going back to the screenshot that we had, so the first part is network configuration. So you configure which regions you're going to have, and also ASN ranges, which is your autonomous system ranges that you have for BGP peerings. The second part is segments. Segment has got a name, as an example, prod or non-prod or dev, and then which locations you're going to have. You're going to have in the regions that you had, and then some default parameters. If you do not want to change them, I'm going to stay as default. If you want, you can change. As an example, do you need to accept the attachment to this segment? Every time some attachment wants to be part of this segment, do you need to approve it? If not, you're going to keep it false. Otherwise, you just make it, you just change it to true. And also isolate attachments. For prod, generally should be isolated attachments. If you don't want it, you just keep it as false. The third part, which is in the green box, mapping attachments to segments. So now you have attachment and you want to map it to the segments. How many different options do you have? The first option is static. You can explicitly map that attachment to a segment. Another way is by tagging. So your attachment has got a tag, and then you will say if attachment has got a tag, and if the tag is, as an example, prod, put it on segment 100, as you can see in the green square on the left hand side. You can also add routing policies here. However, with routing policy, there are other options way easier that you can use. And this is via the dashboard. So you can create sharing. So you have a segment, shared services, and you want all the other segments to be able to communicate with this segment. So you're going to allow all the segments to communicate with shared services. However, you have segment here. It says non-prod. This is part of the workshop. Imagine prod that you want only to communicate with shared services attachments. So it's going to communicate with the attachments that you actually include in the attachments. So here is egress attachments as part of a shared services, and I had 2, so I included 2 here. So you have a default route from segment. Everything attached to the segment has got a default route coming to egress attachment or egress segment. Moving to attachments, we have already talked about it. There are 3 types of attachments that we can have: VPN, site-to-site VPN, SD-WAN, and transit gateway. Direct connect needs to be connected to transit gateway to be able to be attached to any segment or attached to Cloud WAN, connect to Cloud WAN. This is a screenshot of attachment. So here I have selected VPC on the top square, and the bottom has populated that these are the available VPCs and these are the subnets within that VPC. So you can choose which one you want to be included. This picture is not really clear. Sorry, I couldn't find, actually it's better now. find a better one. I guess this one is clearer than the one I had before. I just wanted to show you that in a policy, if you, I mentioned that policy has got a single file. You can only edit one the same policy, and you're going to create new versions. And every version, then you need to apply it. So as you can see, it just says that it's ready, then you apply it, and it's going to be your latest policy, and it's going to be applied.
Can you roll back easily?
That is a good question. Perhaps you need to just apply the previous policy. Because you're going to copy the JSON file and going to create another new policy, and you're going to apply that.
Right, so essentially just select the old policy and go apply, and then it should revert back to the old version.
I'm not sure about this, right? That if you can choose the older policy and apply it. We can check it.
Sweet.
But what you can do is that you can just copy the old policy JSON file and create a new one and apply the new one. But I don't know if you can just go back to the old policy and apply that. We can test that. Actually, a great question.
Yeah, because I know that a lot of customers will also want to know how can they test this before they commit to it in their like full environment. And I'm assuming you'd have a duplicate environment set up like non-prod that you can apply the policy to make sure that it's not doing anything wacky.
Yeah, that is also an option. Another option, we're going to go to the scenario 2. It might answer that question, right? What if they have already existing connections, and how it's going to impact it? Because the only thing that is going to be going to have impact is a policy, routing policies, right? Attachment doesn't really do anything. If you attach a network to a segment and they are not already part of Cloud WAN, and testing is not going to have impact. Only the policy is going to have, the routing policy is going to have impact.
Yep. Never underestimate the power of a dev to break something.
Yeah. Yeah, but you don't just test on the production, as you mentioned. You just have an environment that you're going to test on it, and you're going to check the policies and everything. You're happy, then you're going to move on.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, Cloud WAN pricing. It's got 3 components, Cloud WAN pricing. The first one is core network edge, has got an hourly cost, which is fixed all regions. The second one is data processing. Again, is fixed all regions, is gigabyte, and core network edge attachments is vary between the regions. You can just scan the QR code and check the different regions has got a different cost, especially around the attachments.
And you don't need a rush because it'll be available as a VOD directly after this, finishing. So you can actually just go into VOD and then click this slide.
Cool. Okay. Now we talked about all the components. We talked about all the parts. And now we're going to bring everything together. So we start with the scenario 1. In scenario 1, we have our customer's network manager. His name is Michael. And Michael is super excited to hear about AWS Cloud WAN like I was. And he believes that it's going to bring simplicity, automation needed, and they can achieve the segmentation because it's very important for them. He has got 4 requirements. The first one is that 3 different environments that they have: pod, non-prod, and shared services. They want to be deployed across 2 different regions, and they have 1 regional egress that has to inspect all the traffic going to internet, and the prod environment should be isolated. This is actually one of the Cloud WAN workshops that I will give you the link after that, but we want to discuss it in high level. You are more than welcome to go through it after the session is finished. I'm still coughing. Okay, cool. So The first part is creating a global network. So you create a global network, and the second part is core network. So core network is going to be created. Then we add core network policies, which we will define segments. We will define all those parameters, like do you need acceptance or not, what attachment tag is going to be linked to which segment, do you need to be isolated, and so on. And also routing very important. As an example, in this picture, I just want to bring my magic pen. Where is it? Is here. Let's see if we can use it. Can you see this?
Yes, we can. It's working.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great. So here we have all the VPC set, like these top ones. One is going to be in non-prod. Two of them are connected to non-prod. Oh, gosh. And then the other two are prod. So these two I can't draw.
The
And
mouse is hard.
oh no, just I need to practice. So, however, all of them need to communicate with shared services. They can't communicate with each other. This is not available. Not available, but not is not possible. You shouldn't be able to do it. Not allowed, if I say that. So now we have a policy that I need to just undo all of them for me to be able to move on with this magic pen. Cool. So now we're going back to the policy that we had. This policy actually part of that workshop. The same policy you go to, and then you're gonna go create attachments for the VPC. And VPCs, each VPC attachment has got a tag associated to it, and if they fall into the tag, then it's going to be mapped to the correct segment. As an example, if there is a VPC attachment, let me go back. If there is a VPC attachment, which is says prod, has got a tag, and the tag says prod, then they're going to fit into prod segment. If the tag is a tag and the tag is non-prod, they're going to be mapped to non-prod. Again, this is a VPC attachment. We have seen this screenshot. Everything should see shared services. That is why it says allow all. But non-prod and prod, they can't see each other. So there's a default route only pointing to the egress because they have to see the shared services. But in the policy, we say that this is the isolated segment. When we have done all these things, now we have to go back to the route tables, VPC route tables, and also add appropriate routes there. So this is only routing within Cloud WAN. You need to manage the routes between the VPCs yourself. You need to add them, not between VPC and the Cloud WAN. This is a workshop. If you want, you can just go and complete it. I think 2 hours, and just please consider the cost. You might need to pay a few dollars on this workshop, depending how long you're going to run the workshop for, because remember, it's got an hourly cost. Scenario number 2. Now here that we have transit gateway involved. So scenario number 2, we have a network manager. His name is Casey. Surprise.
Yay.
And then he's also very excited about Cloud WAN, but he already has global network. He has got transit gateways, transit gateway mesh. Now, how are they going to proceed from here? What should they do? This is the current infrastructure or the current workload. They have 3 transit gateways. They have 2 environment, prod and dev, 2 VPCs in each region, and they have 3 regions. Everything is connected, everything is working. Transit gateways, as I mentioned, are regional construct. So in each region, you're going to have a transit gateway, and then you have a static routing between transit gateways. What they can do is that they can um, build Cloud WAN in parallel with their transit gateway setup. So they create segments, they create policy, which create segments, and they define the routing policies, and they create a transit gateway attachments to the Cloud WAN. Um, so now you might ask me, but this is going to mess up the routing because they already have the routing between the transit gateways. Transit gateway has got a static route versus transit gateway to Cloud WAN is dynamic, is BGP. And static always preferred over dynamic. So you have a backup BGP dynamic route, but the main one that is being used is static routing between the transit gateway peering. So when you tested it, everything is working. Oops, sorry, I didn't go through it. So you tested it, everything is working. Um, Policies are in place, routing is in place, segments are correct. Then you will move to the next slide, which is actually removing the static routes from BGP peering. Because static routes are not there, now the BGP is going to be used and the traffic is going to flow between transit gateways. Cloud WAN is going to be in the middle, and you can manage everything, the segmentations, the attachments, the view, the dashboards from Cloud WAN.
As a dumb question, I'm just going to quickly ask, if static is always preferred, then how do you test a dynamic routing if you have the static routing still in place?
So you, in this scenario, right, you're gonna let me see how can I position this. So in this scenario, you already have got a BGP established, and everything that is in that route table attachment to the transit gateway is going to be populated by a BGP.
Okay, so you'll know that it's working because BGP will be telling you it's working
Yeah,
essentially.
because BGP is gonna advertise all the routes that in the transit gateway routing table to all the others.
Okay, you can totally tell I'm not like a very good network, infrastructure manager.
No, you ask very good questions, right? In like in different service providers, we have the ability to actually view the routing tables, what has been dynamically populated, right? And here you can do some testing, right? You can use a network analyzer to test the reachability between the segments, but it's not like the one that we had in a console. You see, oh, all these routes have been populated.
Yep.
Cool. That's it. And this is very nice blog. Please go read it. Very interesting. And that is from my
Are you supposed to
side.
be clicked? Are you supposed to click to another slide?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm on mother screen. Okay. So um, that's it from me. I hope we have lots of questions.
Do you just want to leave it on the other slide while we do our outro and see if anyone has any questions? Which, by the quietness that we've had for the last 40 minutes, I'm assuming everyone is just trying to absorb as much information as possible and allocate it. As I mentioned, this is available on demand afterwards, so if you do need to go through it, slow down, rewatch some segments, totally do that. And in the meantime, Miriam, I want to thank you for coming on to From the Field and actually sharing your expertise. It's not very often that we get to speak to someone that is as well versed in networking as you.
Oh, great. Thanks for the opportunity, Casey.
Yep. And I believe in April, every second show from us is going to be doing a essentially networking 101 all the way down to networking 400 level. over, I think it is like 5 shows, but spaced every 2 weeks after that. So if you are interested in learning networking, especially on how it's done and best practices in the cloud, definitely do come and join us when that starts. I should be able to give you the actual date because yes, and
My
that
session is
starts.
4th of May.
Yes, so session's the 4th of May, and the series is starting on the 23rd of March. That's New Zealand time, so that might actually be the 22nd if you're in North America. Awesome. With that, I will say thank you again, Mariam. And with that, I will say see you later. And thanks for everyone that dropped in, and hopefully you learned something new.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.